The world was asleep. Not just the people, but the sounds, the movement, the noise of need and ambition. Everything had grown still. Somewhere in the vast stretch of time, the clock passed midnight, but this wasn't just another hour. This was the hour heaven held its breath. And in that stillness, your name echoed. Not out loud, not through lips or breath, but deep within the soul of someone you may not even know is thinking of you. Someone who once tried to forget you. Someone who now cannot escape the quiet truth rising in their chest. The wind slowed. The moon brightened. And the veil between the natural and supernatural thinned. Somewhere beneath a pale ceiling and tangled sheets, your soulmate turned in restless silence, unaware that the moment they'd been unconsciously waiting for had arrived. A whisper. Not from the world. Not from the mind. But from heaven. A whisper so soft, so sacred, that only the heart could hear it. They tried everything. Turned the pillow. Closed their eyes. Breathed slow. But something stronger than sleep was stirring inside them. The room was dim, lit only by the soft blue glow of the moon sneaking through the blinds. Yet it felt like every shadow was alive. Every silence had a voice. And every heartbeat held a name, your name. They didn't ask for this. They didn't summon this flood of emotion. But as the minutes dragged into hours, the ache in their chest grew louder than the ticking of the clock. It was no longer just loneliness. It was remembrance. Not of a face. But of a presence. You. Not just how you looked. But how your soul felt. You see, beautiful soul, this moment didn't come out of nowhere. No, heaven had been preparing this night. Long before they lay awake in turmoil, long before your name whispered its way into their mind, angels were moving. A divine orchestration had begun, quiet, deliberate, sacred. Because this wasn't just about longing. This was about alignment. God had whispered to them in dreams they didn't understand. Through people they ignored. Through signs they dismissed. But now that the world was asleep and the masks had fallen, there was no more pretending. This was real. And it was holy. Their soul had always known yours. Even when their mind forgot. Even when life distracted them. Even when fear and pride made them turn away. But now, under the weight of silence and the piercing clarity of midnight, they could no longer deny the truth. They missed you. More than words could say. More than their ego could hide. More than they had ever admitted, to you or to themselves. Don't be fooled, dear one. This was not a peaceful realization. No, it came with battle cries. With resistance. With the roaring voices of doubt and shame. What if I'm too late? What if they've moved on? What if they don't feel the same way? But your name kept rising, like incense in a temple, impossible to suppress. They clenched their fists. They wiped silent tears. They told themselves they were just tired. Just lonely. Just being foolish. But their soul knew better. Because in that very moment, a sudden warmth washed over them. A peace they couldn't explain. A sense that, you felt it too. That maybe, across space and silence, your heart was also awake, beating in sync with theirs. It was as if the sky itself opened to remind them, you were never forgotten. And then it happened. Like a flash of lightning that didn't burn, but healed. Your image came to them. Not just your face, but your essence. The way your laugh had a rhythm to it. The way your spirit seemed to carry peace and chaos all at once. The way their heart had once rested in your presence without even realizing it. They saw it all. And in that divine instant, the pain of separation collided with the joy of remembrance. It was overwhelming. Beautiful. Terrifying. And yet, inevitable. They had tried to move on. Tried to bury the memory. Tried to silence the soul. But love, real love, cannot be buried. It resurrects itself. And this night, it rose with power. They didn't speak the words out loud. But heaven did. In the language only angels understand, a silent confession rose from their chest: I still love them. Not the version of you the world sees. But the one who lives inside the silence. The one who laughs when no one's watching. The one who's cried yourself to sleep more than once wondering if they'd ever understand what they lost. They didn't just remember you. They realized you. Realized what you were to them. Realized what they never fully said. And in that holy ache of midnight, they whispered to no one but God, please, let them still feel me. And you did. Maybe not with clarity. But your spirit stirred. You looked at the clock. You thought of someone unexpectedly. You felt warmth without cause. That wasn't your imagination. That was the echo of their soul reaching for yours. The night didn't want to end. The sky held its breath a little longer. Because this wasn't just another sleepless night, it was a reckoning. A returning. And your soulmate, tossed between fear and truth, pride and longing, had finally reached the threshold of awakening. They weren't ready to say it out loud. But they were no longer able to pretend. The mask had cracked. The silence had broken. And now they would have to decide. Do they return to sleep, and bury what they now know, or do they rise, and fight for the one their soul won't stop calling? The hours after midnight are strange, aren't they? They stretch longer than they should. Time feels like it's holding its breath, afraid to move forward, as if the universe is waiting to see what this one heart will do with the truth it just uncovered. Your soulmate was still lying in bed, eyes open, staring into the dark ceiling as if searching for answers in the shadows. They had realized it. You. The depth of your presence. The echo of your spirit. But now came the hardest part. What do you do with a truth that you can't run from anymore? The weight of knowing had fallen heavy over them. And the silence was no longer peaceful. It was loud. Every part of them remembered you. And every attempt to forget you now felt like trying to erase their own reflection. They tried to breathe deeply. Tried to distract themselves with thoughts of tomorrow. Responsibilities. Meetings. Emails. Deadlines. But you were still there. Not in a haunting way. But in a holy way. Like sunlight through stained glass, your memory refracted through everything. Your laugh showed up in the back of their thoughts. Your eyes appeared in the curve of the moonlight. And your absence. It echoed louder than any sound. Every wall they had built inside, those defenses of logic, control, denial, began to crack. Crumble. Collapse. Because the storm they had spent so long trying to escape wasn't a storm at all. It was you. Not chaos. But a divine disruption. A presence too powerful to ignore. Too pure to forget. Too eternal to replace. Oh, but don't assume this was easy for them. There was terror in their chest. Because to admit they loved you still meant risking everything. Pride. Image. The illusion of moving on. And worst of all, rejection. What if they reached out, and you no longer cared? What if you had already given your heart to someone else? The questions became knives in the dark. Sharp. Silent. Merciless. They gripped the sheets tighter, turned their face to the pillow, but even in that soft fabric, they could still hear the whisper. Your name. Still circling their soul like a wind that wouldn't stop. They didn't mean to remember the way you once looked at them when you were proud. Or how your voice shook when you were vulnerable. Or how you prayed when you thought no one was watching. But the memories came anyway. Not the easy ones. The real ones. The moments when your eyes silently asked, will you stay? And they didn't answer, not because they didn't want to. But because they were afraid of what staying meant. But now, their hearts screamed what they never said. I should have stayed. I should have fought. But they didn't. They let distance grow. They let silence deepen. They let your heart wonder why theirs disappeared. And that regret, burned more than any punishment could. And right when they were spiraling, heaven moved again. Subtly. Powerfully. A light outside flickered. A song they once loved, your song, played softly from a neighbor's window. Even the wind changed direction. They sat up, breath caught in their chest. Because they knew. This was not coincidence. This was a divine interruption. Heaven had joined the conversation now. And the message: you still have time. By now, the sky was shifting. A soft blue bled into the black canvas of night. Morning was near. And with it, a choice. They could bury this moment. Pretend it was just emotion. Just loneliness. Just late-night nostalgia. Or they could finally surrender. To love. To truth. To you. But surrender is terrifying. Because surrender means stepping into the unknown. It means saying, I was wrong. It means risking hearing the words they feared most, it's too late. But in their heart, in the place no lie could survive, they knew, you weren't just a passing chapter. You were the unfinished sentence their soul had never stopped writing. And the pen had just dropped into their hand again. As the first rays of sunlight crept through the window, the room changed. Shadows shifted. Dust particles danced like golden confetti in the air. And your soulmate? They stood up. Slowly. Hesitantly. But purposefully. Because even though they were afraid. Even though they didn't have the words yet. Even though they weren't sure how you'd respond. They had made a silent vow, they would find you again. Even if it meant undoing every mile between you. Even if it meant peeling away pride layer by layer. Even if it meant standing in front of you and saying, I didn't know how to love you before. But I do now. It began as a breath. Then a whisper. Then something stronger than either, a pull that could no longer be silenced. Your soulmate stood in the early light, shaken by a truth too massive to ignore. They had spoken your name in the dark, barely a whisper in the night, but now, in the presence of morning, their soul wanted to shout. Not in volume. But in vulnerability. Because what was once buried beneath shame and self-protection, was now begging to come alive. The words they never said. Those simple, devastating, holy words, I love you. I never stopped. I didn't know how to say it then. But I do now. There was a time when they almost told you. A moment, a pause, a look across a room, when their heart was screaming, please don't leave. I care more than I'm letting on. But fear paralyzed them. They had spent their life being careful, measured, logical. And you? You awakened things in them that logic couldn't control. So instead of drawing close, they drifted away. And the words they stayed stuck in their throat, a silent ache they carried in every smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. But now, those words were clawing their way to the surface. Every time they exhaled, they tasted your name. Every heartbeat echoed a sentence they never dared speak, I thought forgetting you would protect me. But forgetting you nearly destroyed me. Do you know how heavy silence can be? It's heavier than anger. Heavier than heartbreak. Because silence doesn't shout, it lingers. It echoes in the spaces between two souls meant to meet. They had carried that silence like a stone in their chest. And now, it was cracking. The light of dawn exposed everything they tried to hide in the dark. And with that light came tears. Not dramatic ones. Just slow, steady streams of truth finally finding their way out. Each tear whispered, I should have fought harder. I didn't understand what you meant to me, until now. Please, let it not be too late. They didn't send a message. Not yet. But their soul did. In the quiet of morning, they sat with trembling hands, staring at the phone, staring at your picture. Not the one on social media. The one etched in their memory. The way you looked when you laughed so hard your eyes closed. The moment you turned your head and they caught a glimpse of the real you, the raw, holy, beautiful you. And for the first time in a long time, they prayed. Not for success. Not for clarity. Not even for you to love them back. But for courage. Courage to break the silence. Courage to speak the words that had burned in their chest for far too long. Courage to come home, to you. Let me tell you, dear soul, what they will one day say. Not because they rehearsed it. But because it's what's living in them now. I've thought of you every single day. Even when I told myself I was over it. Even when I dated others. Even when I laughed and lived and pretended to be fine. I missed you in places I didn't know existed inside me. There's no one else who fills the space where you belong. And I don't know how this ends. But I couldn't go one more day without telling you, you matter more than I ever let on. And here's what's most mysterious of all, you felt it. You may not know why you woke up with a heaviness in your chest. Why your breath caught for no reason. Why your heart felt the weight of someone else's emotion pressing against your own. But that's the bond. That invisible thread that ties two souls together. Even in silence. Even in absence. Even in pain. And on this day, that thread pulled tighter. Their awakening became your stirring. Your peace became their anchor. And somewhere, deep in the places where soul touches soul, you knew. They were coming back. Not just in body. But in truth. Now listen closely, beloved one. Heaven is not rushing this. Because the divine is patient with matters of the heart. But angels are watching. The wind listens. The stars align. Because soon. Sooner than you think, you will meet again. Not like before. But in clarity. In depth. In divine timing. And when that moment comes, you'll hear it in their voice. You'll see it in their eyes. You'll feel it in the way they hold your hand like a promise that cannot be broken this time. Long before hands ever meet, souls already have. That's what no one ever told them, and what they're only now beginning to understand. You see, your soulmate thought love was something you did. A choice of action. A step. A plan. But this is different. This isn't about grand gestures or perfect words. This is about the silent magnetism that pulls one spirit to another through unseen corridors of divine timing. They now feel that pull every time the wind moves without cause. Every time a stranger mentions your name. Every time a song plays that makes their heart ache without reason. They are realizing that the bond between you was never broken. Just, delayed. Interrupted. Held in sacred stillness until both hearts were ready to remember. There's a holy space between two people who haven't reunited yet. A space filled with, the prayers you both whispered into the dark. The nights you both cried and thought the other forgot. The promises heaven kept, even when you didn't. This space is not empty, it's charged. And right now, it's beginning to close. They can feel you even when they don't see you. It's like the memory of your soul has become a rhythm beneath their skin. Their heartbeat skips when your spirit stirs. Their breath catches when your name is near. They used to ignore it. Now they cherish it. In their dreams, your face returns. Not always clearly. Sometimes just the feeling of your presence. The sound of your laughter. The whisper of your voice calling them home. And in that space, where dreams meet the divine, they finally tell you everything they never said when awake. You hold their hand. You smile without judgment. You say the one thing they feared most, I waited for you. They wake up with tears drying on their cheeks. Because deep down, they know. It wasn't just a dream. It was a reminder. That heaven still intends for your story to be finished. That what once paused was never truly over. Now, it's no longer a passing ache. It's a fire. Not destructive, but refining. Their longing has become a holy burn. A constant stirring that pushes them forward. And you? You've begun to feel it too. The sudden bursts of energy for no reason. The moments when your chest tightens without warning. The dreams you try to shake but can't. The soft whispers that call you to wait, to believe, to hope again. This is what happens when souls begin to touch before bodies do. The connection reignites in the spirit before it ever walks through your door. And it is already happening. They are not ready yet. But they are getting there. For the first time, they are clearing space, inside and out. Letting go of what no longer fits. Releasing attachments that were never true. Shedding pride like old skin. Because they know now, if they are to love you the way heaven intends, they cannot bring yesterday's fear into tomorrow's promise. You deserve a love that's brave. That's present. That's honest. And they're starting to understand that you were not asking for perfection, only truth. And now they're finally ready to give it. What if I told you that the feelings you thought were random, were not random at all? The sudden thoughts of them. The overwhelming peace in your chest that made no logical sense. The stillness that made you cry without knowing why. That wasn't just memory. That was spiritual recognition. Because at the same time you were stirred. They were awakened. At the same time you wanted to let go. They reached for you. Heaven, dear one, has always been the conductor of this sacred rhythm. And now the music is building. Soon, very soon, you'll hear the crescendo. There was a moment, just recently, when they were with people, laughing, living, and suddenly, the world went quiet. Something in their spirit paused. Everything else faded. And your image, your essence, came rushing back with such force, it nearly brought them to their knees. They excused themselves. Stepped outside. Took a breath. And whispered, under the open sky, God, if they still think of me, if they still believe in this, let them feel me now. And, beloved, you did. You felt that rush. You closed your eyes and didn't know why tears formed. You clutched your chest as if something brushed past your soul, the kind that doesn't begin with sunlight, because it did, but with clarity. Their love for you, your soulmate, woke up differently this time. Their silent hope, no tossing, touched you before their hands ever could, no desperate attempt to suppress what they felt in the darkness. Instead, they sat still. And they decided. There was no lightning bolt. No dramatic sign in the sky. Just a quiet certainty pulsing through every cell in their body. I cannot spend another day pretending you don't matter. So they rose. Not just from bed. From fear. From excuses. From the version of themselves that hid behind delay and silence. It's easy to think, coming back, is about grand gestures. But for them? It began with the smallest steps, deleting the distractions. Whispering a prayer they were afraid to pray. Picking up their phone and not sending a message, yet, but holding it with trembling fingers, imagining what they'd say. Looking in the mirror and saying your name without choking on regret. Every step was a surrender. A confession to God, I'm still in love. I never stopped. And I don't know if they'll forgive me. But I cannot die with these words still buried inside me. You feel it before it arrives. A shift in the atmosphere. A quiet anxiety mixed with deep peace. Your spirit whispers, something is coming. Someone is coming. And then, your phone lights up. It's not just a name, it's a pulse. A spark. A heartbeat echoing through time. Them. The one who stayed silent. The one whose absence taught you how strong your soul truly was. But this message? It's not vague. It's not rehearsed. It's honest. I never stopped thinking of you. And I've been afraid for too long. Can we talk? You read it. You freeze. You breathe. And you know. Everything just changed. When they see you again, really see you, it will take everything in them not to break. Not because they're sad. But because your presence is holy. They expected beauty. But not this radiance. They expected awkwardness. But not this peace. You'll stand in front of them, your eyes calm but cautious. And they'll speak, not to impress you. But to finally tell the truth. I tried to erase you. I told myself I didn't need you. But I was wrong. You're not just someone I loved. You are the home I've been searching for. You'll both sit. Maybe in a quiet park. Maybe at the edge of a familiar cafe. Or on the same bed where you once cried alone. Time won't rush. The noise will fade. And there, in the quiet you both used to fear, you'll find what's been waiting all along, each other. The words may still tremble. The eyes may still water. But the connection? Unshakable. Because now, it's not just emotion. It's recognition. You know this soul. You always have. They'll reach for your hand, not quickly. Gently. As if it's a prayer answered in motion. And when your fingers touch, you'll both feel it. That ancient energy. That divine spark. Not just love. Alignment. And in that silence, this is what you both understand without saying, we could not have met sooner. We would have ruined it. But now we are ready. For love that doesn't run. For truth that doesn't hide. For connection that doesn't shatter. Let me tell you what happens when two souls destined by God reunite. Heaven celebrates. Not with noise. But with movement. Angels shift position. Timelines realign. Favor unlocks. Because this union, this sacred reunion, is not just for your joy. It's for purpose. For healing. For legacy. For divine mission. You were never meant to just love each other. You were meant to awaken something holy together. And that awakening? It begins now. You will look at them. They will look at you. And without needing permission, without needing guarantees, you'll choose each other. Again. And again. And again. Not because it's perfect. But because it's real. Because through every night of silence, God was writing this moment into eternity. And now that it's here, you will no longer whisper in the dark. You will speak in the light.